Good evening, everyone. Oh, thank you. Look, the energy is already in the room. I'm ecstatic that you all are here with us for this epic inaugural event. And we are going to embark on an amazing journey discussing the state of the Black professional. My name is Chelsea Haynes. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a TV host on Fox 2. I host a lifestyle show that airs every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And it's all things food, fun, fashion, fitness, faith, anything that's not really news. But one thing that I hold near and dear, well, yeah, that's me. And I really do hold the Black community, the minorities right here in St. Louis, near and dear to my heart. I make sure they get on TV. We talk about what's happening in our community. And that's really is my passion. I am also from the great state of Texas. I love me some St. Louis. Yes, thank you. I love me St. Louis. But I am from Houston, Texas, born and raised. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Missouri, and I myself am a young Black professional. So without further ado, welcome, and this is the state of the Black professional.
She is certainly something else. We love to watch you on TV. Let me just tell you, this is a joy for us to be here. Since we're plugging undergraduates, I am Ken Franklin, a proud graduate of Morehouse College, a little small school in Atlanta. I don't know if you heard of it. I also have an MBA from Washington University. I'm not sure if you heard of that either, but I am the president of the Black MBAs of St. Louis, and we want to welcome you. This is a very good-looking crowd. I was very impressed by your stature, by your loveliness, and your professionalism. So we hope that you will sit back tonight and enjoy what you've seen, but also act upon it as you leave. For more than 30 years, the St. Louis chapter of the National Black MBA Association has played a crucial role in the development and progression of business professionals in the St. Louis community. As one of the 47 professional chapters located across the United States and Canada, the Black MBAs of the St. Louis have offered various professional development programs, community outreach, initiatives, and signature events that contribute significantly to the growth of inclusion in the St. Louis region. The chapter has also been able to provide scholarships to local high school students and undergraduate students as well as graduate students, thanks to the support we receive from many of you who have donated to those causes. We also have a proud LOT team, which is Leaders of Tomorrow, which you'll hear a lot about later on. They do a business case competition every year to represent St. Louis. They're representing you at the national level with business case competitions. You know, 8 years ago, I walked across this stage and I had a big understanding of organizational strategy and leadership. And it's befitting 8 years later, I returned to celebrate what we call the state of the Black professional. Olin Business School is also committed to the community outreach, demonstrated through Dean Anjan Thacker, who is with us today, and Vice Dean Todd Milborn, where Olin's mission is to grow the community by serving it and making sure we identify key issues with solutions in order to grow value. I now would like to introduce and thank Dean Thacker, who is coming up shortly, for not just hosting us, but sponsoring this section of the program. Dean Thacker is a finance professor who dabbles a lot in innovation and strategy in order to achieve growth. His theory of organizational higher purpose changed my whole outlook on how organizations can run at the top performance based on the shared values and collaborations of its customers, its employees, and its stakeholders. He's got data to support this, so it's something that really has given my life meaning. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce you, Dean Thacker from Olin Business School.
Good evening. Thank you, Ken, for that introduction. I remember you well as a student. Ken was a great student. And one reason why I remember him, besides the fact that he was a great student, and he reminded me today, is that he was the only government employee in the class. And I forget now, I think we probably had about 40, 45 students in the class. So that was quite remarkable. And he and I had many conversations when he went through the program. As Ken mentioned, even though my PhD is in financial economics, and that's where I've done most of my research, about 10 years ago, I had an interaction with a former colleague and a good friend who had just come back from spending 3 years in Australia on a Mormon mission. And I had basically lost contact with him. We had exchanged 2 or 3 emails. And I asked him, I said, Bob, what were you doing the last 3 years? And he said, we built an organization of higher purpose from the ground up. And I said, what does that mean? So he explained it to me. And it was about the mission. And so I said, well, I can see how something like that would work for a church, but would it work for a for-profit organization? You know, can a for-profit organization have a sense of higher purpose that transcends its usual business goals? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, then it's a great topic for research. So he and I embarked on about 3 years of research that produced papers and books and so on. So since then, this has really become one of my passions in what I teach and what I do research in. And we define higher purpose as a contribution goal. What is it that the organization is doing to contribute to the community that it's in, its employees, its customers, that goes beyond the usual business goals, but in the process of conducting its normal business. So it's not charity. It's the day-to-day things that you do in your business, the decisions that you make every day. What contribution do you make? Okay. And so higher purpose, what we have found is, in our research, that organizations that authentically focus on higher purpose and do it in a way that intersects with their business goals have employees that contribute more. And the reason why they make bigger contributions is that they are not only contributing to the success of the organization, but they're contributing to the success of the purpose, the higher purpose that the organization has, and that motivates people. So it can provide a contribution-based glue for the organization to flourish in what is counterintuitive at first blush, is that organizations that actually sacrifice short-term profits to focus on a transcendent higher purpose in the long run actually do better in achieving their business goals. We did some research during the pandemic, 1,100 US households, roughly representing the cross-section of the population. And we found that individuals who had a higher purpose were able to cope with the stress of the pandemic much better, right? It's not that they weren't stressed out. They're human beings too, right? But they were just able to cope with it better. So it does really interesting things for organizations. It does really interesting and powerful things for individuals. And the other thing we found is that people who worked for organizations that had a written higher purpose were more likely to have a personal higher purpose for themselves written down as well. And that sort of makes sense. If you go through this exercise at work, you'll say, well, why do I not do it for myself? So for organizations, what we found that higher purpose does is it inspires creative and innovative thinking. That can lead to growth. Ken mentioned that I taught growth strategies in our executive MBA program that he went through. The growth creates the potential for positive financial impact and outcomes. So when you aim for something higher than business goals, you actually do better on your business goals, okay? Which is really fascinating, right? So it's not, the trade-off is that sometimes you have to give something up in the short run to achieve that. It helps to attract the best talent, which of course every organization wants to do. And it improves the reputation of the organization through distinction and differentiation. One of the most striking examples of what a sense of higher purpose can do to the commitment that employees have to the organization comes actually from a very interesting video made by a Harvard Business School professor that relates to the terrorist attack on the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai, India, that took place a few years ago. You might remember that. And it was really dramatic because there were a few terrorists who came in speedboats from Pakistan to the Arabian Sea. This is a beautiful old iconic hotel, 150 years old. It's right on the ocean. So they came in speedboats and with machine guns entered the hotel. You couldn't do it today because security is different, but in those days you could just walk in. And they began to shoot people. What is interesting about this video is that every single employee in that hotel knew the back door exits out of the hotel. Every one of them could have left anytime they wanted. And so this Harvard Business School professor who teaches this case in the MBA program, he says, I typically ask my students, he says, what percentage of the employees do you think left? And he says he typically gets answers ranging from 40 to 60%. Even if you have a really committed workforce, you have people shooting at you, you're going to flee. The correct answer is 0. Not a single employee left. Many of them took bullets because they stood between the terrorists and the customers. That is unbelievable, right? But it actually happened, okay? And so then the rest of the case is about what kind of organization, culture, and commitment do you need from your employees to have that sort of behavior, okay? So it can be a game changer for organizations that authentically discover and live their purpose. Now, authentically is very important, right? You don't want it just to be a banner on the wall. You want to actually commit to it. So this fall at Olin, we went through a purpose discovery exercise. You don't invent a purpose, you discover it. It's already embedded within the DNA of the organization. And we came up through surveys and talking to people and focus groups. We stated the purpose of the Olin Business School as discovering knowledge, enriching people, and advancing business to change the world, for good. For good has 2 meanings here. One is permanence, the other is for the better. And because we're a business school, we are in the business of helping people to get wealthier. So enriching people is not a bad thing, but it's enriching people both in the wallet and in the soul, right? And we live that purpose in many ways, through our research, our teaching, talent development of future business leaders, and our community work. It's in fact even led to a whole new program called Olin Shout Out, where employees are encouraged to recognize their fellow employees for living our purpose. And then people who get a lot of votes end up getting prizes, so it's a little bit of fun injected into this, but the whole idea is you appreciate the people you work with for the things that they do, right? So I'm proud to say that we, faculty, staff, and students, really believe in this, and we're committed to this. Now, one of the contributions that any business school, including Olin, can make is to the community. Now, we make this contribution in many different ways. One is obviously the students we teach, people like Ken who go through the program, go back to their organizations and make contributions that are invaluable. But we have a strategic area of focus in that we refer to the school as being in St. Louis, Washington University in St. Louis, but also for St. Louis and with St. Louis. So we're not just in St. Louis, we're for and with St. Louis. And that is also the focus that the Chancellor has articulated. And at Olin, this is most aptly reflected in the community work that we do, okay? So I'm proud to say that we have 115 different consulting projects that we do every year. They involve about 1,100 students, led by the faculty and supported by our staff through our Center for Experiential Learning. And in any given year, up to 80% of those projects and the work that is done in connection with those projects happens right here in the region. So we're really committed to the region. We believe in making a contribution to the region, and I think it's really important if you're a university or a business school that you focus on those contribution goals. They're incredibly important. And some of the work that we do is with large corporations, but many are small businesses. Some are not-for-profits, some are entrepreneurial startups, non-government agencies, and many community and United Way agencies. Specifically, through our tailored community consulting program, small business initiatives, and metric clinics, the student teams, these are teams of 5 to 10 students, led by faculty members, provide consulting support to family-owned businesses, startups and agencies owned by or ones that serve underrepresented populations and underserved areas in our region. And that's really important to us. Our goal is to continue to grow our impact on the region through the education and development of future corporate leaders, small business owners, and entrepreneurs, specifically from underserved populations and areas within the community. So thank you all for your time and for listening. And I encourage you to continue the importance and impact of having a purpose. And so something that I hope all of you can reflect on. And we need purpose not only for organizations, but also for individuals, okay? There's a very high correlation between, for example, mental stress in college students and whether or not they have a sense of purpose. And so I think it's important for everybody. I encourage you to think about it in your daily work, in your teams, and in your other activities within organizations. Thank you.
Today, we're talking about being Black in the workplace.
Going back a quarter century, statistically speaking, very little has changed for Black applicants. Whites receive, on average, 36% more callbacks than African Americans and 24% more callbacks than Latinos.
Thousands of made-up resumes were mailed to employers, identical except for the names, half Black-sounding, half white. The results? Black-sounding names were 50% less likely to get follow-up calls.
On Facebook, the truth is, for many Black Americans, getting a job is almost impossible. And it's because their Blackness stops them from even getting in the door.
Blacks are the last hired and the first fired.
White males are hired based on potential. Blacks are hired based on demonstrated accomplishments.
Corporate America seems to be taking a closer look at racial equality and inequality in the workplace, and a lot of corporations are rolling out commitments to do better. But, you know, we've seen this happen before. So the real question is, what is going to lead to lasting change? I want to...
I thought it was pretty, ooh, that is loud. I'm loud myself, but I thought it was pretty cool that I actually saw one of my mentors in that video, and to see him talking about the state of the Black professional on a national level is amazing, because that's what we're here for tonight. And I am ecstatic to introduce you to our next person who will be giving us our welcome this evening, presented by Washington University. It is St. Louis's 47th mayor, who is our first Black female mayor in the city's history. Make some noise. And man, did we luck up with her. She is our first Black female mayor. She is a proud HBCU graduate, also of my mother's alma mater, the Hampton University. And yes. And she also holds a master's degree in healthcare administration, but she is a woman of integrity, of dignity, of spunk. She's a go-getter for the city that she serves. And that means that she means exactly what she means. She says she does exactly what she's gonna do. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we would like to welcome to the stage this evening a true St. Louis Titan who is oh so St. Louis, the one, the only, Mayor Tishaura Jones.
Oh, good evening. I didn't know I was going to follow that bleak video. Lord, have mercy. I don't know about you, but I'm depressed. I need a drink after that. Oh, well, good evening again. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm Mayor Tishaura Jones, the 47th mayor of the city of St. Louis, and it is my honor to be here with you tonight. I want to thank my good friend, Ken, for inviting me to be here this evening. He was like, you got to do this. We're going to do the State of Black Professional. You got to be here. I'm like, okay, I'll be here. And it's so good to look out in the audience and see so many of my friends. One of my mentors is here, Mark Sanford from People's Health Centers. I remember going in Mark's office when I was considering going to graduate school. And I said, Mark, I want to go to graduate school, but I don't know what to major in. And I was working at People's at the time. I wanted to either get an MBA or an MHA. And since I was in healthcare, he led me to complete my master's in health administration. So thank you, Mark, for all of that. I want to thank the leadership and members of the National Black MBA Association, and thank you to Washington University for hosting us. This is my second time on campus today. I think I deserve my own parking space. In this building, actually, I was on the second floor earlier today. I want to focus on three things this evening in my welcome remarks. Number one, our city's Economic Justice Action Plan. 2, our Economic Justice Accelerator. And 3, our efforts to recruit and retain Black talent and Black professionals in St. Louis. So, growing up in one of the most historically segregated cities in the country, I witnessed firsthand what happens when resources are taken away from communities and families that need it most. So my family grew up on the west side, on Julian Avenue, and my grandparents had bought this house in the 50s, and it was the biggest house I'd ever seen in my life. We called it the big house, and it was the center of my family's universe. And now when I go back to that neighborhood, the house is gone, we lost it in a fire, and all of the houses around it are now vacant or boarded up. And so last year, with that in mind, we launched our Economic Justice Action Plan, and our 3 main pillars are to empower, develop, and transform. See, in the past, a lot of these economic development processes the city went through excluded a lot of people. But if we're gonna have economic justice in St. Louis, then the city's government has to first serve as a model. I'm committed to creating economic justice for all who live here and growing the economic competitiveness of our region, but this is not a solo sport. You hear me? It's not a solo sport. Economic development and rebuilding our city is a team sport. We're making significant and long overdue investment in marginalized people and places of this great city, i.e., we're making significant investments in North St. Louis, but we're not stopping there. You can think of our city's investment as a down payment on the investment that's long overdue, and we're working with local and national leaders to bring additional resources to St. Louis. My administration last year committed a $150 million investment in North St. Louis and disinvested neighborhoods across our city. The economic justice bill that was passed by the Board of Aldermen is designed, again, to empower, develop, and transform communities that have been left behind for decades. Decades, you hear me, decades. And in January, thank you. In January, we opened the Northside Economic Empowerment Center at Sumner High School. because Sumner holds a lot of meaning to our community, and we wanted to make sure that when we brought resources, we brought them in community and met people where they are. So at the Northside Economic Empowerment Center, this is change that people can see and feel in their neighborhoods. It focuses on business empowerment, capacity building, and workforce development. We provide technical assistance, capital, yes, capital, money, back office support services, and training opportunities for residents and businesses. You never know, we might find build the next Dave Stewart or Annie Malone at the Northside Economic Empowerment Center. But by bringing together these resources under one roof and in community, we can make an even bigger impact and give residents the skills that they need to grow or start their own businesses. And it's really envisioned to be a one-stop shop, no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey. The physical location, combined with online resources available through the BOSS portals or BOSS portal, will allow the St. Louis Development Corporation to deliver a variety of services when and where business owners need them. We also offer training and workshops for those who want to start a business but don't know where to start. And for new business owners and young startups and existing businesses looking to diversify, grow, or expand. We also launched on 314 Day the Economic Justice Accelerator or Economic Justice Fund, and we made a $246 million deposit or commitment from the City of St. Louis, and we hope to grow that to $1 billion investment. It establishes our Economic Development and Transformation Fund, and we're housing it at the St. Louis Community Foundation with an initial grant of $1 million from MasterCard to fund the support of the Economic Development Fund. Thank you. So along with MasterCard, we're working with other local, regional, and national philanthropic investors, bankers, and development leaders to bring additional resources to St. Louis. And my last point on Black retention, last week we welcomed STEM scholars from the newly minted PhDs to college juniors as a part of an effort called Bio-STL Pathways. Pathways aims to attract and recruit a diverse population of life science students from HBCUs and other nationally ranked universities with high minority representation to build a talent pipeline for St. Louis candidates for placement into 3 pillars of Bio-STL: startups and partnering organizations. I sat around a table with these young people. I guess I'm not that young anymore. Watch it, right? Watch it. And I could see that they were excited about spending a weekend here. They were like their first cohort. They came from universities such as Howard and Alabama A&M, I believe, and Georgia State, a university with a lot of diversity. And they asked me, what would you say to someone if they're moving here, and why should they stay here? And of all of the things I thought about our arts community. I think St. Louis has one of the best unknown arts communities in the country. I mean, you can find live music just about anywhere in the region on any given night. I think I saw a statistic once that out of 365 days a year, you can find live music in St. Louis 300 days a year. And then, also how we, and I thought about our arts community, and I thought about how we're redeveloping North St. Louis and how we should center the arts in that redevelopment and tell our culture and our story of the great people who lived here, who walked these streets, who were Black excellence back in the day, like your Annie Malones, your Homer G. Phillips, people who were in the Ville neighborhood and the Greater Ville and the history those neighborhoods have. And so I talked to them about all of these things, and hopefully I inspired somebody to come and stay in St. Louis after they finish this program. And additionally, We engaged communities of Black professionals that have left St. Louis for cities like Dallas and Atlanta, and we listened to their concerns and ways that we should think about attracting and retaining Black talent. These are ongoing conversations my administration is having because we want to see why people leave St. Louis. And we want to see how we can change the environment to make people want to stay. Just like that old joke that Chris Rock used to say, well, if you're ever lost on MLK Boulevard, what do? Run. We want to change that, and we literally want to change that on MLK Boulevard by redeveloping MLK all the way from Vanderveer to the city limits. And a big part of that development is the Urban League, because it runs right by what we call the old Sears building. We made a major investment of $10 million in new market tax credits to help Mike McMillan redevelop the Urban League. Not because he's my friend and I love him, because it's important to our community to make the Urban League the shining beacon of North St. Louis. Can y'all see that? Can you see that with me? But the kind of transformational change that we're talking about doesn't happen, and it won't happen overnight. And of course, even though they say I'm Black girl magic, it doesn't come with a wand. This kind of change cannot and should not be on the shoulders of government alone. As I said, this is a team sport, so I'm gonna leave a challenge for all of you tonight. 3 words: meet me upstream. Meet me upstream to transform our neighborhoods into a collective of thriving communities where we know and look out for our neighbors. Remember that when you got in trouble on the street and your neighbor's mama beat you before your mama came home? Meet me upstream with opportunities for economic growth, wealth creation through home ownership and job opportunities, investments in apprenticeships, fellowships, and internships. How many did the St. Louis internship program when they were a kid, right? We used to do, it used to be that when it came to summertime, there were tons of opportunities for our children to do internships at City Hall or Operation Brightside, picking up trash on the side of the road, right? So meet me upstream. Meet me upstream with a regional approach to address the root causes of crime. Our problems don't end at Skinker Boulevard, the Mississippi or Missouri rivers, and neither should the solutions. Just yesterday, Chairwoman Webb from St. Louis County Council and I were at an all-day crime summit that we put on with East West Gateway, and we talked about regional solutions all the way from Franklin County to St. Clair County, because we have to, just like the urgency that we address COVID with, meeting every week, talking about what we were doing to make things better and keep people safe, that's the kind of urgency we need when we talk about gun violence in our communities. Meet me upstream. Meet me upstream where we invest in the well-being and quality of people. When people are deprived of their basic human rights, freedom, justice, and lack of access to basic necessities, crime takes root in our communities, because the poverty is the parent of crime. And we have to, if we address poverty, we address crime. But we can do this. Do you believe we can do this? Yes. We can do this. We can wrap our arms around our communities and provide opportunities for everyone to thrive. A thriving community is a healthy community with less crime, like the one I grew up in, where you can stay outside until the street lights came on. That's the future every child in this region deserves. And that's the future I want for St. Louis. So thank you for coming this evening. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. And yes, you are Black Girl Magic, so we will meet you upstream so you can wave that wand. Next up, we have an amazing Fireside Leadership Chat coming to the stage. We will hear from a panel of distinguished male leaders from our St. Louis area as they share their input on changes that they've seen or encountered during their careers. To get them started, I would like to invite back to the stage this evening the president of the National Black MBA Association of the St. Louis chapter. We have Mr. Ken Franklin. Also coming to the stage, we have Dr. Wayne Jones. He is the owner of Full Spectrum Energy Consultants and is a chair on the National MBA. He's the chair of community development. So let's make some noise for Dr. Jones. Next on this panel, we have BJ Holiday, program director and on-air personality with iHeartMedia St. Louis, who oversees 4 urban stations here in St. Louis and 1 in Indianapolis. And last but certainly not least, we have Mike McMillan, CEO of the Urban League and a true titan here in our St. Louis community. So please make some noise for all of these gentlemen coming to the stage. And this panel has been sponsored by iHeartMedia St. Louis.
Sit right here. Okay. Yeah, let's see.
Thank you.
Y'all have a seat. Okay. Well, I tell you, the mayor fired me up. I thought there was a choir coming. I was ready to say hello. I'm not going to talk about politicians, but I think Councilwoman Webb was saying hallelujah back there and amen. Certain thoughts. So this is a very distinguished panel. And I just want to thank you all for coming. But thank you all for coming to this. I'll try to make this brief. I'm the son of a pastor, as you all well know. And so somebody is in charge of giving me the Baptist finger. It's not that finger. But then to wrap this up and go, but we wanted to make sure that we got input from our distinguished panelists tonight. And so, Dr. Jones, we're going to start with you.
All right.
You are a theologian, an engineer. You're also a CEO of your own company and chair of an energy company, by the way.
Yes.
And there we go, got some utility folks in the house, that's right. Selfish plug, American Water, best water ever. But you have done some research yourself.
Yes.
Laying the groundwork over the Black economic and how it impacts St. Louis region. It's not just macro, but you're looking at the region. Could you give us, as they move to your slide, just a little bit over the economic impact we have actually on the dollars in this region?
Sure. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
One of the things that has concerned me in my 54 years of professional experience as I've looked across our city and region is the hidden and, you might say, latent and muted impact of the Black dollar in the St. Louis region. And interestingly enough, today, using lagging indicators, the Black dollar, the EBI, effective buying income, over the last recent years, the last 2 years, is something like $8.6 billion in the St. Louis metropolitan region. That is what we spend collectively. And unfortunately, nearly 99% of those dollars leave the Black community going to other places and do not return. Now, in looking at that, one of the things that is impressed upon me is that we're at a point in time when we must reclaim and also reestablish what you might call a microeconomics or a real and de facto Black economic community. Now, when we use the word community, we often think about a common people who have a common identity, who have common living spaces, not necessarily packed upon one another, but who can be readily identified in a given geographical area. But the most important aspect of community is that those members of the identified community control the resources necessary to their well-being. Now, that has not been a fact since a century ago. We're poised, all of us, at this point in time to reclaim, and to reproduce that reality. At $8.6 billion on the international scale of nations and GDP, we would be something like 100 plus in a national position. In other words, we're a micronation in the city of St. Louis. Just the East, West St. Louis metropolitan community. And so looking at those dollars, one of the things that's imperative upon us is to develop communities so that our dollars flow and circulate to us, resources owned and controlled by us, with businesses and entrepreneurial concerns that provide the good and services where we spend our money.
That is really deep, Dr. Jones. Now, for all you finance people, y'all see this formula. He didn't put all the formula up here because it's his, and it's copyrighted at the bottom. But we have many more talks like this on our Black Perspectives page. If you go to our YouTube channel, we go into really depth conversations. And not only that, Dr. Jones has also let us know that the black dollar, the black business was strong 100 years ago. The mayor hinted to this too.
Yes.
And if they can do that now, then we should be able to do that again too. So this is nothing new for us as a community. We're just going back to our roots.
Yes.
Look at your neighbor and say, back to your roots.
Back to your roots.
I like in church up in here. Mike McMillan, CEO of the Urban League of St. Louis.
Thank you, sir.
Probably one of the things we share is being the youngest person in the mayor's staff.
Yes.
You have seen a lot of changes from those days. You stepped out of St. Louis University. Talk a little bit about how you've seen those changes in your various careers as elected officials and then coming to your role now as a CEO. And how has that had impact on your role as a leader today?
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate Ken for being a leader, not only in this particular organization, but in St. Louis, and you're continuing the role of your father. I also want to acknowledge all of the Urban League young professionals that are in the audience, the Urban League staff, and our board member, Emily Pitts, that are here to collaborate and work with you. You know, I think for those of us who have been in the workforce for a long time, things have changed drastically. I remember when I got a word processor, I thought I was living the dream. And so if you look at the technological advances and you look at the ever-changing world that we're living in, we have to constantly adjust, constantly make sure that we are doing everything that we can to remain viable as Black organizations, as historic civil rights and advocacy entities, when you talk about entities like the Urban League, et cetera, because sadly in St. Louis, we have seen so many organizations, whether it's the Gateway Classic or Human Development Corporation or Carver House, or even the strong programs and activities that we had with UNCF and so many other Black institutions that are no longer here and or serving in the way that they did. And so we work every day at the Urban League to sustain, maintain, grow, and evolve at 105 years old so that we can be there for the next 105 years, so that when people look back on us, like the doctor just so eloquently articulated, how sadly we have not continued our economic progress and our economic mobility in the form of Black business ownership, that a century from now, when they have this panel of the Black MBAs then, they will be able to say that they recognized the problems, did something about it, and made measurable differences for the long term.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
BJ the DJ. I don't know if that's appropriate to say. Associate Director, iHeartMedia. You are iHeartMedia. Let's just say St. Louis.
Yeah, well,
Matter of fact, this whole segment is being brought to us by iHeartMedia. So let's give it up for iHeartMedia. From Sister Strut to be in the community affairs, I'm embarrassed him, but there's one person who's responsible for that, and that's this guy right here. You have seen a lot of changes.
Yes.
I mean, I remember you from Magic 108. When I used to have my box, and my kids still don't understand cross colors, but that's another segment that we'll get to.
Right.
You've seen all those changes up until now. You are a leader in your industry, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
How have you seen those changes, and how does it impact you in your current leadership role now?
Wow. When you think about when I first got into radio, we had these things called carts. And most of you all probably remember or may not remember the 8-track tape.
Oh, yes.
So we used to have these things called carts that you put in, and you would have to put those in like an 8-track tape and play them. And then, we moved from that, we went to cassettes. All right, and then we moved from that, we went to CDs. And then we went to this thing called a computer. And I don't know how to type. But I think most importantly, the changes that they did make, it took away a lot of jobs. Because like now, if I break it down to you, you'd think that I'm a tired person, but I'm really not a tired person. I actually get a lot of sleep. I'm on the air at 10 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m. on Hallelujah 1600. Then I'm on the air again from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Magic 104.9 HD2. Then I'm on the air again, and I stop in and do some things on 100.3 The Beat. I'm also on the air Monday through Saturday, well, Monday through Friday, shall I say, from midnight to 6 a.m. in the morning on 20 stations across the country.
Wow.
Now you're thinking, how did this guy sleep? Well, with the technology, typically it takes me about 50 minutes to do all those shows.
Wow.
But in the interim of that, it has taken away a lot of jobs, right? Taken away a lot of jobs. So for me, when we talk about changes, one of the things that I wanted to do was be the change. Change is always going to come. It's going to be there. But I had to be the change, so I got ahead of the change. Like when I knew we were going to, from the carts to cassettes, I figured out how to run the cassettes before everybody else. When we went from the CD to the computer, I figured out, how to work the computer. There's a lot of programming that I do, and I had to get ahead of it. But I got ahead of that change because I wanted to sit in the seat where I can look back and say, what is the issue here in St. Louis, and how can our radio stations help our community? And to be able to be in the seat that I'm in right now, I constantly reach back and grab young blacks to pull them up so they can sit in my seat when it's all over with. And I do have some members from our 100.3 The Beat show that we do every Sunday night. It's called Youth POV. Most of them are in the audience right now. And that's, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you, Marlo. But, when we talk about, the change, I tell everybody, you should try to be that change. Because you're not going to change the situation, but you can change how the situation operates if you just be the change and be able to sit in a seat where you can make that change.
Well, that's great advice. I appreciate that. Especially in my career, you all have been very instrumental to me. But I forgot about one thing. My 87-year-old mother is at home watching my 10-year-old son. And she told me to make sure I tell BJ DJ, because he watches the Hallelujah every day. If I don't say, she's a former first lady, if I don't say hello to you, I can't go pick my kid up. So, BJ, thank you for allowing us.
Don't forget to make sure you get me her name, so that way I can say hello to her on the air.
Yeah, my wife is here, so we're good tonight that we have a date night here. But so I'll be remiss. I got a question, and I'm gonna switch this up. Look at him get nervous on me. I got a question, kid. This is all great what you're doing tonight. But what happens after all this is done? And I said, we've got to have something. We'll have continued conversations. There's so many organizations in here. The young professionals from the Urban Leagues is here. I think we've got some more. NSBE is in here. My wife is part of NSBE, so is Dr. Jones. Shout out to all the engineers. Yes. But we have other organizations, too, that I see that are represented in our community. So I said, we're going to come and have these dialogues with our community partners, and we're going to come up with next recommendations. So I'll put you guys on the spot first. I want to know, starting with Dr. Jones, Mr. McMillan, down to you, BJ, what do you think the region needs to concentrate to focus on the environment for the Black professional, not only to succeed, but to grow the pot of economic prosperity for the region too as well? Dr. Jones, we'll start with you.
Okay, that's a great question. One of the things that, and Ken referred to the equation, the formula, and it's interesting that I went through a process after working professionally and what have you, and most of us in here will remember the 80s and how things just changed, and one of the cruxes of the changes had to do with productivity. And as I thought about this instance of individual productivity, I developed a theorem called Jones' theorem of individual economic value. Y is equal to 20.2x. And it struck me that employment is good and necessary as a training ground for greater things. But what I recognized through this formula, that the typical and the highest wage and compensation that any employee makes actually results in 4.95% of his or her total productivity to the corporation or the employing entity. Now, productivity includes not only the quantitative revenue, but it includes things like reputation, quality of craftsmanship, marketing edge, but also level of consciousness and innovation that corporations and entities gain benefit from. Now, what I also recognized is that the typical employee over a 40 to 45 year employee career earns, before taxes, a gross and a whopping amount of $1 million to $3.7 million over 40 to 45 years, with a high school graduate to graduate level. And if we want to understand the level of productivity, you multiply that amount by 20.2. In other words, you'll never see your total productivity individual value on your W-2. The only way one will be able to recoup that is through entrepreneurship. And so what we should be looking at over the region is really including entrepreneurship, business sense, financial literacy at the middle and latter primary grade levels. We think of that when we think about youth entrepreneurs. Some names like Mr. Fresh, Jalen Bledsoe, Farrah Gray, and others. Farrah Gray wrote a book called The Reallionaire, who became a millionaire at the age of 14. At 7, many of you know the story, he started out by selling painted rocks and sold them as bookends. Teaching our youth these not only tactics, but principles so that they may, in their economic lifetime, gain and recoup their productivity. And by the way, it's not a bad thing if you take a look at your highest salary and wage that you've made on any job and multiply that by 20.2, that represents an approximation of your productivity to the employing entity. Wouldn't it be nice to have that on your W-2 and in your bank account?
Yes, indeed. I know I like that too as well. But But Pastor, we're going to hold off a little bit because they could catch Black Perspectives this fall and our new season coming up, and you can see the rest of what he has to say. But I am getting the Baptist figure, so Mike McMillan, we're going to take it to you, and then we're going to wrap this up with BJ. Last comments.
Well, very quickly, when you talk about what the corporate and business community can do to empower and support Black people in this region, one, appoint African Americans to the board of directors of these publicly traded corporations to be involved in the leadership. Two, to support and empower African Americans in C-suite positions, because if you think about it, everything that the doctor just said that was so eloquently stated, there is not one Black CEO in St. Louis today with over 500,000 African Americans in St. Louis City, County, East St. Louis, St. Clair, and the entire region. And so we still have not made that progress yet. And then beyond C-suite, then deal with vendors. So hiring African-American companies to become vendors of these major corporations and businesses, regular staff, and then when these corporations are involved in civic and charitable and volunteer activities, that they purposefully target African-American led organizations, African-American causes, and the rest to be about real change and systemic change in St. Louis.
Okay, thank you. Last word, BJ.
I think with the two of them talking about what corporations can do, I want to spin it a little bit and talk about what we can do as individuals. Because I know that a lot of times young people see people like myself, Michael McMillan, and Mr. Jones here, and they see us sitting in these seats, and they go, how did they do it? You know, how did they get to where they are with everything being like it is? We do know that when we walk into a building, that we are going to be counted out when we walk through the door. We know that because we're Black. So we know that. So the deal is how do we turn around and look at how do we get to sit in that seat and get in these rooms to have these conversations for these corporations to do what they need to do for our Black community. So one of the things that I talked about earlier is about being the change. At the same time, you have to position yourself. You have to learn everything about the company and how it operates. I didn't get where I am I'm just here. I had a lot to learn. And I tell young people all the time, you have to learn everything and you have to put yourself in a position where you can be that one. Because every company finds one. We know that. They find one and they're gonna sit them in a certain seat and that person is gonna be that one. Now, being that one means that comes with a lot of responsibility. It's all about what you do about being that one. You know, how do you look at somebody that looks like you and you teach them how to do what you did and not hold on to that mantle like I'm sitting here in this seat and I'm gonna hold it for myself because I don't want anybody else to be here but me. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about what can we do. We have to constantly look at our community and we have to look at people that look like us and say, how do we help them get to where I am? Because our young people need that. You know what I'm saying? It's better to teach them how to be in this seat than to be in the seat of a car with a gun. I mean, because that's what's happening in our community, because a lot of us don't reach back. So I think a lot of the responsibility is on us to do what we gotta do to get to the seats so we can go to these corporations and force them to do what they need to do as it pertains to the Black community.
Amen, amen. Again, we'd like to thank iHeartMedia, our partner for this segment, and please help me thank our panelists and their enlightenment into our predicament. Thank you all.
Actions speak louder than words. That's why we're supporting policy change, increasing representation, paying everyone fairly, making our board more diverse, completing anti-discrimination training, connecting leaders and employees, diversifying our suppliers, committing $150 million to Black colleges and universities, supporting Black-owned companies, diversifying our partners, investing in Black investors, integrating human rights into tech. There are countless ways to make the world more inclusive. These are 12 actions we're taking. With more on the way. Cisco, powering an inclusive future for all.
Well, there is more on the way tonight. We have coming to the stage next, we have Enrico Spates. He's a senior manager at Cisco, overseeing global partner sales and business development. Yep, come on. We got to give people their flowers. In this capacity, he plays a crucial role in executing Cisco's social justice initiative, which aims to enhance diversity within the channel partner ecosystem. With a global reach, Enrico works with numerous companies to drive the growth and the success of Black-owned Cisco partners. He also actively contributes to increasing the recruitment of Black candidates across the entire Cisco partner ecosystem. And today, Enrico will share with us the pulse of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? So first of all, thank you to the National Black MBA Association for allowing me to represent Cisco today as an inaugural sponsor of the Symposium. And I will have to say that previous panel kind of stole my thunder. I believe that. Because they talked about what the corporations need to do, right? They talked about supporting their suppliers, their vendors, right? Their partners, getting people in the C-suite. And what you just saw in that video is exactly what we're doing. We're doing just that. And we made that commitment. And you know how that commitment came up? It came from us. It came from the Cisco Connected Black Professionals in our ERG. We sat with our CEO, Chuck Robbins, in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd and said, hey, we got to do something, right? We got to take action. And those actions are a result of what we came up with. And those actions span internally to Cisco and externally to Cisco as well. And one of those actions that I lead is action number 10, which was up there on the video, around diversifying our partner ecosystem. And so we work with thousands of companies worldwide to do that. But what I'm here today to talk to you about is not about Cisco and technology that we create to connect the world or our purpose, because we do have a higher purpose, like the dean said, to power an inclusive future for all. But I'm here to talk about the pulse of DE&I, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I'm going to have to pick on my wife because she's in the audience. And I don't know if this is going to score me some points or lose me some points, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. She's a healthcare professional by trade, and she would take my pulse all the time, right? And a pulse is an indicator, right? It doesn't necessarily tell you what's wrong, but it's an indicator of what's wrong. It can tell you that something is wrong. If it's too fast, or if it's too slow, or if it's not there and you were expecting for a pulse to be there, that's right? So I wanted everybody to take two fingers. I want you to put it on your pulse right here. See, I don't feel anything because I still can't do it right? But the pulse, right, is going to mean something in context, right? It's going to mean something to you. So here's the context. So post George Floyd, a lot of companies made a lot of commitments. Some of them have accomplished it, some of them haven't. The ones that haven't, they kind of fade away into the back and stop talking about it, right? And this is alarming, right? We had a huge increase in roles that surrounded DE&I at that point in time. And 3 years later, we're seeing those roles being rolled back faster than other roles. Sounds like a problem to me. That's an indicator of an issue, right? We go in cycles in corporate America. About 3 years is a cycle. That's about a cycle. Until something new comes along or something else happens, right? And now there's a conflict in investments that you have to make. And so you'll see some companies kind of shift or move. One of those big things are environmental, social, and governance, ESG. So you'll hear about that a lot. And DE&I is kind of tucked in there too as well. But this kind of indicates that maybe there's an issue, maybe there's a change in focus, right? That's happening here. But how do we put that up against this? When companies focus on DE&I, they get better business outcomes, right? 8 times better business outcomes. Now, that's not just diversity, that's inclusion, right? Inclusion is different than diversity, right? Diversity gives representation. Inclusion means that you are part of the solution. You are part of this innovation that takes place. And when you do that, companies are, as you can see, 35% more likely to outpace your competitors in your industry. This is what companies want to do. And 83% higher revenue from innovation, right? That's what inclusion does, because when you have different voices at the table, we get more innovative solutions. So if you take the polls, like, well, this doesn't make any sense, right? All this is good stuff, so what's going on, right? So here's the key, and I'm gonna wrap it up here, because I told the LOT young people to do 3 things: be brief, be bright, be gone, right? So I only got a couple minutes, okay? So how do we put this up against, what's going on here, right? There's a focus here, right, on DE&I. There's great outcomes, right? So what's going on? We have to be there. We have to be present. So just like the last panel was saying, I think BJ said it the best at the end, is that, we have to show up. If you are the one that you get tapped on the shoulder or picked, all right, you have to serve. You have to do what you need to do to help the next generation, right? The next set of leaders that are coming up. And you have to advocate. And so I want to leave you with a quote here. This is from my leader, Jason Gallo, who's a global vice president of partner sales, and he's the executive sponsor of the African American Cisco partner community. But what he will tell you is he's just a brother from Brooklyn. That's what he would say. And we were actually talking this morning about this and kind of summarize it up, pretty good, which is, for us to drive these outcomes, we have to self-advocate, right? And self-advocate is just not in a situation of self-advocating for you, which means standing up and saying in a conference room, hey, look at all this great stuff I did, right? Self-advocate in the sense of a community means you're advocating for the entire community, right? And this isn't just in corporate America, but it's for entrepreneurs as well. We need to be self-advocating for the businesses in our community to drive those outcomes. That's what we need to be doing. And so that's a key piece, right? And how we approach our issues, how we approach the opportunities that we have in front of us, this is what we need to do. So I will leave you with that, and I hope I can expound a little bit more in the panel. There's a whole lot more to go here, but like I said, be brief, be bright, be gone. That's what I got to do. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that you all take everything that you're hearing today, put it into action, right? It's one thing to be empowered. It's another thing to take action. And what this should be about is what did we do after we left here, right? Not what should we have done after we left here. Thank you.
Brief, bright, and gone. Enrico, thank you so much. That was great. And staying on the topic of first in the St. Louis area, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our moderator for this next portion of the event. Wesley Bell is the first Black prosecuting attorney for St. Louis County. He is probably the first of his kind who will really show up for you when you need him. He showed up for us tonight, and I can't wait to bring him to the stage. Prosecuting attorney Bell will brush up on his skills by asking the questions that we all want answers to this evening as a representative of the defendant and the Black professional. So, Prosecutor Bell, please come on up.
Good evening. I'm here because it's been a slow week for me. Not a whole lot going on, so I didn't have anything else to do, so I figured I'd show up. I even picked up a second job for a few hours. Again, I am happy to be here. My name is Wesley Bell, and one of my jobs most notably is while the mayor was speaking, I was tasked with watching her purse over there. So here I am sitting here, a grown man with a security detail, and I'm stuck watching her purse. And I didn't have a problem with it. That's how much respect I have for her. And so also I'm here, and I'll be very brief, is because this is so important. In addition to what we've heard already, I'll even speak, and I mean for 15 seconds on the government sector and how it's drastically underrepresented. And I'm not talking about around the number of only about 5% black males that are elected in positions across the country, about 3%, 2 to 3% black women of elected folks across the country. No, I'm talking about the vendors that get government contracts that do not go to black businesses. As a matter of fact, that percentage across the country is even lower than the other percentages that I discussed. And so I'm so glad to be here, and this is so important. And so with that said, thanks for having me, and I do want to introduce our panelists. So first, and I'm going to call you up, and if you could, we got a lot of folks here. Come on up as I call you and grab a seat. So first, from Washington University, Giselle Marcus. Give her a round of applause. She was always known for having the best glasses. Also, another good friend of mine, Adrian Bracey, from Adrian Bracey and Associates. And we're gonna keep on going. I mean, and again, I'm really not only impressed with this panel, but I've gotten a chance to work with a lot of these folks, and so it's an honor to also do it for that reason. And so next, J.P. Johnson with BlackRock Consulting. And then one of my counterparts in St. Louis County, Shalonda Webb, St. Louis County Councilwoman, and Boeing, and world traveler, as we all know, as many of us know. And then also Enrico Spates, come on back up here as well with Cisco. Thank you for that presentation. Emily Pitts with Lindenwood, my alma mater, my undergrad. Latanya and Noor with Walmart. Mark Sanford with the People's Family of Corporations. Ron Torrey with the St. Louis Cardinals. He just took 2 out of 3 with the Brewers. I was watching, yeah, of course. And then last but certainly not least, Siobhan Johnson with the FBI. So, there's a lot of you up here. And so I've been tasked with a few rules. And so I would expect that you should listen to them, because I will prosecute you if you don't. Not you, Adrian, because I'm a little scared of her. So, to maximize the time allotted for our panel discussion, each panelist will have a dedicated 3-minute time frame to respond to a question, followed by a 1-minute window for rebuttals or additional insights should any panelist wish to contribute. Our timekeeper will signal you when you have 1 minute remaining and when time is up. So I will direct the first question to Mark Sanford. And so, what are some of the major challenges facing black professionals in the St. Louis region regarding the environment as well as opportunities?
One of the first challenges is that we have to know who we are as African Americans, what we stand for and where we come from. If we don't have that, then we don't have the roots that we need to stand before any challenge that we anticipate in corporate America, nonprofit world, or the government agencies. So once you have a better idea of who you are, when you get up in the morning and look in the mirror and say what you stand for, then you have a better opportunity when you go to work that you know, okay, I don't stand for this. This is not something I would tolerate. This is not the avenue or the street that I wanted to go down. I didn't want to go down Kings Highway. I didn't want to go down Lindbergh. I wanted to go down Natural Bridge. So you make the turns every time to get back to who you are and where you are. The other thing you must have a sense of community. Because when you get to my age and you get ready for that retirement goal, you realize that there is a price that you have to pay. There's a price for success, no matter where it's at. You're gonna have to pay that. It may mean loss of friends, loss of family, some other issues that may come up, and you need to prepare for that price. And you have to know if that's a price you wish to pay. Once you make that determination, I think what I have learned is you better hold family close. Because when you leave those, I've been a member of the National Black MBAs for 30-something years. I've got business cards going up and down. I go back to those business cards, those people are no longer there. They don't work here, they don't work here, they don't work here. So you didn't keep up with them as friends. You saw them as associates. So what you have to do is when you go back, when you go home, who you really are is what you do on the weekends. That's who you are. So if you're the mother giving up your time to take care of the kids, take care of the family, if you're the brother that's helping out in the yard, if you're those kind of people, that shows you. Now, I am a community servant. I've used 2 minutes already. I should have used the whole thing. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm a community servant. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what obstacles I had in front of me, and I had to make a choice. Is this what you want to do? Who's in front of you? And when someone got in front of me, I had to step aside.
Okay. And I could not agree more. That price to success must be paid. Going on to the next question. This is for Emily Pitts.
That was my timer.
Okay. So have a sense of our phones as well as a sense of community. So second question, this is for Emily Pitts. What steps can employers take to create a more inclusive workplace for Black professionals, and what impact might these steps have?
Thank you, Wesley. I think the first step employers need to do is stop talking about being inclusive. We've been talking about it way too long. We need some action. If I hear one more time, what is the business case for diversity, equity, and inclusion, I don't know what I might do. But that is the first thing. Stop pretending as if they don't know what inclusive means. Someone said it earlier, there's a difference between diversity and inclusion. You can have diversity and not be inclusive, and you can be inclusive and not have diversity. Okay, we need both. The second thing is stop equating diversity to maybe not qualified. Or there's an applicant that's like, yeah, they're diverse, but are they qualified? Do we hear that for others? For what? You never hear anyone say, well, was the white man qualified? No. So it's a lot we need to stop doing versus what we need to do. And then I would say also just give us, opportunities to be visible. So leadership and opportunities like that come available because of relationships, right? And those relationships create opportunities for visibility. So we need to have those same visible, important, and complex opportunities so that they can see our capabilities and what we're doing. And we're not getting those visible, I like to call them VICs, visible, important, and complex opportunities. I think there's just a lot that needs to stop being done versus done, as well. But there was one other point I was going to make, and there's just so much around this topic. Okay, there's so much around this topic, but I think someone said it earlier. We have got to stand up for ourselves as well. We've got to show up and show out, and not be afraid. Don't shrink. Don't shrink so that others don't feel uncomfortable around us, right? We have historically worked 3, 4, 5, 10 times harder than anyone else, so we already know that we're qualified. That's not even the question. And I think one of the problems is that there's a fear that it's a zero-sum game. If we get something, then someone else is going to lose something. So we've got to somehow convince, articulate, have courageous conversations around this topic to help explain that, by me getting something, it's not going to take anything away from you. I participated in Focus St. Louis, and we did this level playing field thing. Many of you all may have done it before, and we actually had someone in that cohort that said, I'm not against diversity. I just don't want somebody to take anything away from me. I'm like, what? Yeah, so the pie gets bigger. So we've got to really learn how to figure out how to articulate that so that they understand the benefits of diversity and inclusion.
Amen. Rising tide floats all boats. Indeed, indeed. And this question is for Ms. Giselle Marcus with Washington University, right where we are. What strategies can Black professionals use to advance their own goals, or advance their careers, I'm sorry?
One of those that I've used, and I would like to see more people that look like us use it, is investing in an executive coach. I've had one for, can't believe it, 16 years now. And it has really helped me to accelerate my career, because there's so many things that go on in the workplace, and you sometimes question yourself. You're like, am I crazy or are they crazy? And you can't ask them. So you need a third party that's going to be able to hear you out and also tell you the truth. I've been fortunate enough that for the majority of my career, my employer has actually paid for it, and has been nice enough not to dig into the details too much. So that too has been nice. But when you think about what you don't know, when you walk into a new role, a new opportunity, we don't know everything, right? And you don't want to waste time figuring it out. So a coach can actually help you to get there. The other suggestion that I would make, and someone has said it, I think it was this silver-haired gentleman here, about knowing yourself. I always tell my students, no one should know you better than you know yourself. Always be self-aware, right? And who you are, you should always be, right? So you shouldn't be someone on Monday at work and be somebody else on Thursday night at the reception, right? You should always be the same person. So when people say, who am I always say, I'm an unashamedly Black, I'm unapologetically Christian. And I try to walk in that wherever I go. I yield my time to the next person on the panel.
Enrico.
I want to pick up on that because, kind of where I left off and what I was saying about self-advocation, that's something that I term exposure. And I believe that relationships, just like was stated, is one of the key pieces, right, to driving that success, within your career. And I use the 3 E's, and I have 2 young ladies in the audience, Gabrielle and Courtney here, that kind of help me with this. They're a part of an externship program at Cisco, so very proud of both of them. But it's education, experience, exposure. Those are the 3 things, and put them into a strategy. And education doesn't necessarily mean that it's formal education. That means you just need to get the skills, right? So everybody doesn't have to have a master's degree or a PhD. You just got to get the skills. And take those skills and get experience. Go out and actually do it, right? Whether that's in a stretch assignment, your current role, or whatever the case may be, and get good at doing it. But the real piece is the exposure piece, right? A sponsor is so important, right? We have a lot of mentors. Everybody has 3, 4, 5 mentors. Maybe not one sponsor, right? Part of that advocation is having someone advocate for you in rooms that you're not in, right? And that is the key piece to grow your career. And that's something that I wasn't told. I know I wasn't told that, right? But so much of that has helped me over the course of time, and that's what inspired me to write about it and to share it, is because others need to know that, right? And so that's part of what we have to do when we come to these insights and we see these things. We have to be able to share these things to be able to help others around us be able to make those leaps and take an easier path than what we did to ultimately get there.
Okay. And to echo both of their points, that mentor and sponsorship piece is so important. When I'm interviewing people for my leadership team, and don't give away my secrets, one of the questions I ask is, who is your mentor? And if the answer is, I don't really have one, you're not getting a job. And if the answer is several, you're more likely to get that job. because it's so important to have those advocates and just people that you can talk to. So I couldn't agree with both of you. And I think that's a great segue. And Enrico, I like how you kind of politicked your way into more time because you get the next question too. But that's okay. I like it. I respect that. But this is for you, Enrico. What role do Black professional networks and organizations play in supporting and advocating for Black professionals, and how can individuals get involved?
Wow, that's a good one. I mentioned it, I guess when I was speaking earlier, which is like the Cisco Connected Black Professionals, our ERG or ERO, Employee Resource Group at Cisco. And I think having organizations like that and being actively involved in those types of organizations can play a huge and pivotal role. Being around others that go through shared experiences in a community, right, is really going to be key. And that's something that you have to lean on. So finding those communities to be a part of, whether it's inside of your organization or outside, maybe like Focus, STO, right? Having those communities can really help drive that. And that's another key piece, right? At least for me, right? In Cisco, we're a global company. We're all over the place. We work from home. We do all this. It's kind of hard to make those connections. And so having outlets like that, is really, really important. And plus, on top of that, they post job openings when people are hiring. So you have Black people hiring Black people, which is something else that we need to do, right? To help our community grow and help be a part of that. So I would say overall, it's those communities, and a lot of corporations have that, right? They have these ERGs or these EROs, right? And become a part of it and show thought leadership. Don't just be a part, right? Be a thought leader within those spaces, right? Because if you have an idea or you have something that could be innovative, speak up and say it, right? Because someone else might have been thinking the same thing, right? And so now you have, a coalition of individuals that can take something to the next level to ultimately help the general success of everyone.
And I'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I totally agree. And I also look at ERGs or business resource groups as being like a secret weapon. Because all of the diversity that's within the organization, those individuals, to your point, can refer their family, their friends and family, okay? And actually, I'll give Edward Jones a shout out where I retired from. We actually tracked, I think it's so important to track the results. We tracked that 33% of the hires that came from employee referrals came from our ERGs. And these are people of color. Okay, so, yeah.
And then I'll just add briefly to that. Besides the ERGs, it's important, I think, to also join the external groups. I'm a member of the Black MBAs, but I'm also a member of NABA, the National Association of Black Accountants. And I worked 18 years in the NFL. And I got in the NFL through a contact at NABA. Because I was a member of NABA, someone from NABA referred me to the Miami Dolphins. And I got that job because I was a member of NABA. I would not have had that opportunity otherwise. So it's important to get involved with the external Black professionals, and some of them may not be Black professionals, but if they are, but the bottom line is it's important to really be a part of a professional organization, possibly for your career, for the experience, just because it's a sense of community. So I just want to share that.
Okay. And I would like to add a dimension, a little bit of a turn from what we're speaking about, and that's the fact that we get really excited when we go into the workplace and we see people that look like us. But the comment that I want to make, that my play dad always tells me, that everybody your color is not necessarily your kind. And sometimes, right. And sometimes in the workplace we're going to run into that. I've seen it. And I just want to say, don't be discouraged, right? Because that's not the only person. Some people are happy. We talked about up here being the only one. Some people are very comfortable in that skin. But don't let that dampen your light, because I have some mentees that have experienced that at a young age. And it can have a negative impact. So I just want to say, keep that in mind.
Okay. And of several good points made, there's one thing that I want to take away from that Enrico said was you have to find these communities. They're not just going to drop in your lap, but you have to go out and actively find them. And those are some of those keys, that cost of success. that Mark talked about earlier. And so this next question is for JP Johnson. And I do want to remind y'all that we are on time, because I saw y'all start getting good to a lot of y'all. We want to stay on time. So JP, someone I've gotten to know very well, and a very intelligent and dynamic brother. JP, what advice would you give to young Black professionals starting their careers today, and what resources are available to support their success?
Wes is just trying to butter me up to remind me that he could prosecute me if I go over my 3 minutes. So brevity has never been my friend, so I'll try to keep it brief. I think being unconventional is very important. A lot of what I've heard today and what I hear on stage from these esteemed professionals are strategies and techniques and pathways to success for a whole host of generations that are represented in many Fortune 1000s, 500s, 250s, 100s, et cetera. But I think making yourself valuable in ways that isn't typical is extraordinarily valuable to the ecosystem. I used to work in Mayor Francis Slay's administration. And I remember when I was hired, my boss at the time, she implored me to learn not only everything about the office, but almost every system and every department and their processes, in part because, one, it makes you indispensable when you have so much knowledge about how things function. And not everybody will do that. There are certain people who will only focus on the nuts and bolts of what they do. And then they will go about their business. But what makes you a valuable member is if you can be fungible with your gifts. And you do have them. You just have to tap into those gifts. The other thing she would implore me to do is to show up at everything, even if you don't want to and even if you don't think that thing is important. And that always reminded me when then candidate Obama was running. He talked about how when he was at a South Carolina church, and he was running on 3 hours of sleep and only about 2 minutes. I got you. Keep the handcuffs, Wes. He expected about 200 people to show up, and it was only about 20. And he was frustrated, but that turned into his fired up and ready to go mantra, in part because you never know who might show up and you never know what those individuals might impart on you and how that can actually propel your career for the next thing. And showing up for 20 people is just as important as showing up for 200 people. The other thing I'll say is, and this has been spoken about ad nauseum, and I think it's critical. It doesn't really matter how smart you are. Once you get into a certain room of this nature, we're all pretty intelligent people, but relationships are critical. And relationships that are thicker and deeper than just your acquaintance are the ones that are really gonna propel you to the next level. And so you never know who might have an impact on your life and vice versa. And by investing in those individuals, you're also investing in your own future and what that future can actually produce for the next mentee or the next mentor that you have moving forward. And so those are my comments for now, and I'll snatch the microphone from somebody else. We
got some officers in the back. Stand down. He's good. He's good. And to JP's point, if the goal is worth it, showing up is so important. I couldn't agree with you more. You never know when that opportunity is waiting for you, and something that may seem insignificant. The next question is for our county councilwoman, Shalonda Webb. Councilwoman Webb, how do you see the representation of Black professionals in leadership positions in your industry as it pertains to the St. Louis region?
So I'm going to say few, but before I explain few, I am just in awe because I'm in this audience and sitting on this panel with these professionals and all of you. My name is Shalonda Webb, not Chairwoman Shalonda Webb, just Shalonda Webb. I'm from a small town called Port Arthur, Texas. Where Houston at? You only know about Port Arthur, Texas if you listen to UGK rap. So half of y'all probably too young, but short Texas still rides. Sometimes dirty. But anyway, I am the daughter of divorced parents, but laborers. And all they taught me was, Shalonda, your job is to go to school and make good grades. And that's what Shalonda did. I am a nerd. I know they say chairwoman, councilwoman. I am an engineer, a software engineer for 25 years at the Boeing Company. 18 of those years, truly just a coder. If you need me to work on your air-to-ground system, I got you. The last 7 years, I have been in leadership. But I haven't done what some of these dynamic people did. I just know to work hard, to do my best, and to work in integrity. I never navigated a plan to one day be the county councilwoman. Navigated a plan to be a leader in my company. I was always tapped. But what got me tapped, and I tell this to my children, people may have more money than you, people may know more people than you, but they should never outwork you. And when you work with integrity, no matter what others do, they can't take that away from you. And I applied that to everything that I do in life, everything. That's how I ended up becoming a county council person. I only want to serve my community and make it better. The same thing I do at Boeing. As a black female, as a software engineer, I remember the time, and I shared this with someone earlier, I walked into a meeting and they thought I was the secretary. And no disrespect to that profession, but they just made that assumption about me. They didn't give me the benefit of the doubt or even want to look at my potential that I could be something more. But being the Southern good girl that I was raised, never to be disrespectful, I shared, oh, I can take notes because I'm going to need that feedback as well. I can even count the tiles on the ceilings if you want me to. Or I can strategize and develop your subsystem. It all pays the same. So what I want to share with everybody is that the industry has come some way, but it's got so much further to go. And in order to do that, this DEI thing, it's not by happenstance. It's intentional. When I was tapped for this role, I went to my VP and I said, I am intentional about changing the workforce, the engineering workforce for Boeing, to be more inclusive of African-American women and men. So my first year as a first-line manager, they said, the percentage of African-Americans went up 22% on F-18. This must be an error. And I said, no, intentionally, I hired so many female, so many black men, and so many from other races. We cannot just be in the space, as they said before, for ourselves. We've got to be there for others. It does not change if we don't be inclusive of each other. So when I have a chair, that means you have a chair. And if you have a chair, that means she have a chair. And if she have a chair, then he has a chair. And that's how I operate. Each one teach one, and everybody lifts somebody else up. I cannot leave this stage without saying this or this comment. I'm proud of where I'm from. I know who I am, and I know whose I am. And that guides me every day in my life. So when I became involved in my community, my VP said, why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? You want another job? You're not happy? And I was like, no, sir. But I love my community. I need us to love our community. When they say, you want to live in Winsfield, I say, no, I'm not driving that far. When they say you want to live in, they got great houses in St. Charles, I'm not crossing that bridge traffic. I'm good with North County. I'm very good in North County. And Enrico's good in North County. And I need the rest of us to understand, value where we are. And we don't have to wait on somebody else to do for us, because we're more intelligent. We can collaborate, and we can create the way in the atmosphere and the environment that we deserve and want. We don't have to wait on anybody else anymore.
Amen. And we're going to go down to LaTanya Anor for the next question. LaTanya, what role can allies and advocates play in supporting Black professionals, and how can they best contribute to diversity and inclusion efforts?
Well, so if this was about 10 years ago, the younger LaTanya would have said, move. But now what I would say is, speak up, stand up. You know, I understand that I come as 10,000, and you must be my shero, because I felt all of that. But I know that I come as 10,000. But if you see something, say something. That doesn't just go with the Black community. And other ones know about it too. So it's their priority just as much as it is ours to reach back, to bring one up. Listen, I'm somebody who gives you the answers to the test. I don't give you this high level, deterrent speech on what you need to do and how you need to get it. Nah, bro, I got you. What you need, I got you. I need that same energy though. And I talked to him just like that. Got in this position because I stood up. And people thought that they were doing certain things for Black and brown communities. No, not really. And so then they brought me in. And then I cover 7 states, all entities of Walmart Incorporated. I'm here to tell you today that my sole purpose is to help nonprofits and small businesses get into large corporations. Super passionate about it. If you haven't heard of the workshop, take it. Because I'm telling you, I'm giving you the answers. And my allies are there, and they're there to help. Right now, we got a YouTube for small businesses. I got you. I got you. So again, 5, 10 years ago, it would have been really to move. But now I'm making those connections to make connections so that I can bring y'all in. Lend a hand is what I'm going to say.
Amen. And I think that's the point of programs like this, is to help bring folks along and share with you the journey of some very successful people. The next question is for Siobhan Johnson. How do you think the social, economic, and unrest events of the past few years have impacted Black professionals in your industry?
So being a person of color in law enforcement is hard. It's hard. You are always in your community, but you're never in your community. And I saw this question, and I thought, I want to answer that one, because it's hard, but it's important. The last few years have been difficult for everyone, and they have changed, I think, fundamentally how a lot of us operate, in that, you never want to be the complainer. You don't want to be seen as angry. It's very easy to be seen as angry when you look a certain way. You feel emotion, you have intensity, but that's anger. It's not. I love my job. I am intense because I care, right? And no one should ever be seen in a negative light because of intensity and passion for doing the right thing. The past few years have made it so that I hear the small things, little microaggressions that I might have just ignored, right? Because we all know how to do it when it's easy. The really big bads, we know what to do with those. The little teeny tiny things where you stop and you go, they just say that? How much do I need to do on this? I don't ignore those anymore. And I think a lot of us don't ignore those anymore. So when I hear something and they forget that I'm in the room and I'm in a little teeny tiny corner, I'll stop and I'll say, hey, I don't think you understand how you sound. Here's how you sound. So my job is the spokesperson, which I think is fun, because I got tired of being the token a long time ago, token woman, token minority. And let's say somewhere around elementary school, I got tired of that, okay? Because I grew up in a white community, and it was great, but it was also like a lot, like, hey, I'm representing for all. Then I got to the FBI, and I'm like, okay, there are not a whole lot of us, but got through that process real fast to get in, so great. I did my casework, then I became the recruiter. I know why they made me the recruiter. I am a delight. I am an absolute delight. I want to make that real clear, okay? But there are a lot of us that are delightful, so I know why I am where I am. And then I was even more tired of being the token, but I did it because I want to recruit. I'm going to get people, okay? I'm going to stuff this place so full, it's not going to be like, oh, wow, are they qualified? It's going to be, oh, my God, another highly qualified Black individual at the FBI? Like, what? That's what I want, okay? gonna be like, we can't choose another black lady for this chief role. Yes, you can, and you will, because there are too many choices, okay? So I did that, and then they made me the spokesperson, and I thought, I mean, like, I am good, but like, am I good enough for this? Yes, I am, okay? So they gave me a microphone, and I will use it all of the time, and I will empower the new people who come in, who felt maybe like I did when they came in, and I will say, hey, speak your mind. You can't speak it up there, but I can speak it up there. You speak it to me, I will carry that water up there. And every time they unintentionally create a policy, and it's unintentional, they create a policy, and they maybe didn't have a brown person in the room. I'ma hear about it. It doesn't take long. I'm only about 50 feet down from those offices. I can just sidle on up and say, hey, is this what you meant to do? And they go, oh. And then we can all adjust together. Just because there was no intention to create a bad policy doesn't mean I have to let that policy stand, right? And now it's not a matter of, do they want to hear what I have to say? Doesn't matter. They need to hear what I have to say. And I'm going to come and I'm going to bring the research, I'm going to bring the statistics, and I'm going to cite the studies, and I'm going to take that information where it needs to be heard. And that is my time.
Shaban, we will have no mic dropping on this stage. And to your point, it is hard. And when you are in law enforcement and assumptions are made that you're this way or that way, and even when I came into this position, what I saw as an implicit bias against victims and even defendants from North County that were treated differently than West County. And being in this space, I was able to say, not anymore. Everybody's gonna be treated fair, absolutely. So as I am a big Cardinal fan, I thought about switching the question up because I want to know about Jordan Walker, but I won't go there. So Ron Torrey, what advice would you give to Black entrepreneurs to connect and grow in your industry?
Entrepreneurs in our industry. So I'm in the sports and entertainment industry. I think the advice that I would give them would be to find that need. You talk about MLB, NFL, NBA, Major League Soccer, hockey. All of these organizations, a lot of them have the very same needs. And so if you're gonna get into entrepreneurship, you've got to find that need that all these things have in common. Well, if you go that route, don't be afraid to partnership and surround yourself with great people. You don't always have to be the smartest person in the room, but if you surround yourself with great people, they'll make you look like a genius. A lot of our great presidents, they weren't great so much on their own, but they surrounded themselves with great people and they were able to do great things. But with that, I think that being in my industry and having a position, a front office position with a professional sports team, a lot of times when I come into the room and sit at the table, I don't see people that look like me. It's rare. And now that I've been put in a position where I'm one of the decision makers, as a man of color, I feel obligated to make sure that minority vendors get a serious look at, not a courtesy look, but get a serious consideration for our business. And I'm happy to be able to do that. One of the vendors that we do have, and I want to brag a little bit about our green initiative that we have with the St. Louis Cardinals. We're very aggressive about reducing our carbon footprint. And we recycle aluminum, plastic, glass, cardboard. We even compost our raw garbage. So our aluminum recycler is owned by a Black woman who started her business picking up cans on the streets of Chicago. And now she has facilities in 3 different states. So, like I said, I say that to find the need. So if you're looking to do entrepreneurship and start your own business, it's difficult. I personally own a small general contracting business. It's the hardest job. You can't quit. You can't get sick. You can't take days off. It's very difficult. It's not for the weak. But if you decide to go that route, like I said, surround yourself with great people. Don't be afraid to partner up. But yeah, if you're looking to get into this industry and in entrepreneurship, you don't have to own the team to, get into this industry and be an entrepreneur. You just find that need, find that niche that everybody's looking for, and you could be successful.
All right.
And my quick follow-up comment to you being intentional about giving the opportunity to Black vendors is simply, thank you. So important. Our next question is for Emily Pitts. Emily, how does unconscious bias play a part in the state of the Black professional, and what can we do to help change the decision maker's perspective?
So, again, I'm so tired of some of these issues that we have going on, but unconscious bias plays a huge part in decision making, and it's not going to go away. That's the bad thing about it. One of the things when I'm talking to audiences or doing training, I say, who in the room doesn't have any bias? Everybody has it, right? So it's not going to go away. And I don't feel that it's our responsibility to have to change somebody else's mind. It's their issue. It's not ours. But I do have to give my good friend Carla Harris a shout out. Many of you probably know Carla. She says you can't change someone's mind about you, but you can train them to think differently about you. So if someone were to tell you, well, you're just not strategic enough, then everything from that point forward, you're strategic. I'm gonna strategically do this plan. I'm gonna walk down this hall strategically. I'm gonna just do whatever it is in a strategic way. You train them. She trained them on Wall Street. They didn't think that she could be successful as an African-American woman on Wall Street, and she's like a managing director at Morgan Stanley right now, 35 years, very, very successful. So I don't think it's our responsibility, but I do think that we have to be, and someone said it earlier, be our authentic selves. I think Oscar Wilde said, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Love that.
Be yourself because everyone else is taken. Just a really quick story, young lady, back when I retired from Edward Jones, we were doing a courageous conversation, and she said that she was Muslim, and nobody knew that she was Muslim because she would literally take her hijab off after she would drive into the parking lot. She'd take it off and put it in the back seat of her car or in the trunk because she thought that the bias, they would use that against her. So everyone in this room, there were about 40 people, said, no, Ricky, and she was going by Ricky instead of Rakia. Again, didn't want anyone to know she was Muslim. They said, no, you should wear your hijab. And she said, I don't see anybody else around here wearing a hijab. I'm not gonna wear one either. So she went home, this was on a Friday. She went home and she thought about it. She drove in the parking lot on Monday morning and she sat there for a minute and said, am I gonna be my authentic self? And she said, I'm doing it. So she got out of the car and started walking towards the building, and her immediate leader happened to drive up and saw her and said, Ricky. And she turned around and her leader went, and that took her to a whole nother level. So I think we have an opportunity to help diminish some of those biases by just being ourselves and telling our stories and teaching others to think about us differently. Her leader later told me that she had always been a great employee, but she just went to a whole nother level because we are our better selves when we're being ourselves, right? When we're holding something back, we're not doing our best job. We're not productive for the organization or for ourselves. So that's what I think about unconscious bias.
And last, but certainly not least, this question is for my friend Adrian Bracey. Adrian, when is enough enough? How do you know when it's time to walk away from your current employer?
Ooh, I need about an hour for that one. I'm just saying, but I only have 3 minutes and I don't want to get in trouble. So what I'll do is I'll answer based on my personal experience. And so for me, when I knew that it was time to leave, enough was enough, there's several reasons. Number one, if I found that there was no growth opportunity. So if I've been someplace for 3 to 4 to 5 years, there's nowhere to go. I know, for instance, if I'm at the C level, there are no other positions for me, then it may be time for me to go. Or maybe I'm at accounts payable and I've been there for 5 years and there's just no opportunities, I may leave. Another this really happened to me. I dreaded going to work. I literally would sit in the car and cry because I was at the top of my game, but instead of demoting me, my boss hired someone over me. So it didn't demote me, wouldn't do that, but they hired someone over me for me to report to that person. I knew that it was time for me to leave. Another thing is when it's an unhealthy work environment, physically or emotionally. If you have a migraine or you're physically aching or sick every time you go in and you maybe emotionally you get depressed, maybe time to leave. If you are overwhelmed all the time, like all the time, we most get overwhelmed every now and then on the job, but every day there's consistency and you don't see light at the end of the tunnel. You don't have work-life balance. You work, you live to work. So all you do is work. It may be time to leave. I tell you, this is like most important for me. My values don't align with the organization. That is so key for me because I'm a CPA by trade. Integrity is everything. And if I'm working for an organization and my values don't align, there's something wrong, it may be time for me to leave. There's so many other reasons to leave, and we've all probably been through so many more. But because of time, I'm going to just end it there. So.
Thank you to our panelists. Some takeaways is that price to success has to be paid. Emily said, let's stop talking about inclusivity. Mentors and sponsors, as Enrico talked about, finding those communities, as Enrico also talked about, and showing up, speaking up, and standing up, as LaTanya so eloquently put it. And it's hard, as Shaban talked about, but it's still worth doing. If it's worth having, it's worth doing. And including others who aren't usually included, as Ron talked about. And not only being your authentic self, but also, as Adrian said, listening to your authentic self. Thank you for your valuable time, your input and advice today. And so next, we'll take some questions from the audience. Our wonderful host with the great voice, by the way, Chelsea, will hand you 2 to 3 additional questions from the, okay, yeah, so you got that part, right? Okay.
Does anyone, do I use this mic or go? Okay. Do y'all have anybody with any questions? Yes.
My question is with the state of Missouri and DEI, how do companies operate now within that space of what they're seeing at the state government level?
Who wants to take a shot at that? I will pick somebody if you don't.
So I'm going to speak from the... Can you all hear me? Yes. So from the perspective of Boeing, now this is something that I was proud of because even with that foolishness that was going on at the state, we were committed to DE&I. And when I say commitment, not with just words, but with action and dollars. I always tell people I don't do checkbox. My life just don't have time for checkbox. I need to move the needle. And Boeing did it with money. Last year I started a program called B3, Boeing Education, Engineering, and Equity. And its whole purpose is to build engineers and develop engineers out of our own backyard. So I focus only on North County schools. And then I actually brought them into the company to be apprentices and then exposed them to engineering. And this year we had our first one come back as an intern. And then hopefully as they graduate, they'll come back and work with us full time. But that's long-term investment. I'm bringing these kids in at sixth grade. I'm sending them to SLU for camps. I'm sending them to Mizzou when they're in 8th and 9th grade to stay overnight so they can be exposed to the dorm life. and then actually come and work at Boeing at 16 to make a paycheck. It's not a full paycheck, but it's a paycheck. But even more important than that paycheck, I'm exposing them to engineers. I never knew what an engineer did. I don't know what I want to be until I'm exposed to it. So that commitment to DEI, not checkboxing me, don't have time for that, but committing with dollars and putting our future in place to make sure we grow that talent right here in St. Louis, right here from North County, and I don't have to go to D.C. and Florida and California begging minority talent to come to St. Louis. The mayor talked about it. We need to create that talent here in St. Louis and invest in them so that they want to stay in St. Louis and make us greater. Sorry for the long response.
Moving the needle, that's what we like. We have one more question. You are lucky number 2. Not first, not last, but you know.
Hello, I think the panel did a great job. I really appreciate you all.
Indeed, indeed.
And it's much needed. My name is Dr. Pamela Buchanan. I am a physician, and I have been working in St. Louis since 2008. I trained at Mercy. I was probably the 3rd Black resident, and I was called the Black doctor for the longest time. That's fine, they get corrected. I'm Dr. Buchanan, and they knew my name because I was the first to be there and the last to leave, and the one who knew the answer. Okay, and I still pride myself on that today. But now I am in the mental health space. I've worked in emergency medicine, but the pandemic completely stressed me out and caused some depression. And I took that pain and turned it to action. So I have 2 mental health clinics currently. And my question is this: mental health is underserved in North County, North City. I can go to town and country. I can go to West County and have all the access in the world. I have seen patients who tell me, they're young African Americans, that they've been waiting a year to be tested. Because what I see is something called the school to prison pipeline. A young male, let's just say, you have a young male and he's acting out, he's 5, he won't sit still. He's already labeled. Instead of being tested, he probably has ADHD, he probably needs some medication, he might need some counseling. And then, that would rectify the problem. But the access is not there. So for the law enforcement, the question is, how do we encourage minorities to go into areas like North County and North City? Because I hear my peers saying they don't want to go. How do we foster that? How do we grow that? And what resources are there?
I'm not in law enforcement, but I'm in healthcare. So one of the things I see all the time is the stigma associated with mental health and accessing mental health. And so most of the people I know, they don't want to go to the mental health centers. So some of the things that we have to do is get rid of that stigma about who goes. And we even looked at, usually when you see a picture about someone having a mental health issue, they're sad. Okay, you never see them. You can hear any other thing, people with cancer, and they're not sad, they're looking normal. Well, we need to get rid of the stigma first. Second of all, with the ADHD, I can feel your place. We have so many kids that we see on a primary care basis, and we have the same problem. Because when we say, well, can you go here? We can't get in. Can you go here? We can't get in, we're full. I guess you also have to look at the staffing. Are there enough LCSWs, LPCs, those kind of folks who are in that industry who don't have their own private practice? Because a lot of them, they start, they get the mentorship, they get the license, and they go out and become entrepreneurs, and so they need the patients who can pay. And we see a lot of people who are uninsured, underinsured, underserved that don't have that. And so what we try to do is bridge that gap. But what we don't have is the same thing. We have maybe 3 to 4, and we serve 25, 30,000 people. So what we need is your clinic, and perhaps we can get them there. When I do some little outreach with the law enforcement, do a some diversion things that I see. And the first thing they needed was anger management for these young people. Okay, we already know you got an anger issue because you're in the courts. But now we have to desensitize it. Where does that come from? And that comes from a host of issues that we all know that exist in the Black community. And so what we have to do is then address those so that therefore there are fewer kids with that problem. And I think most of the members of the panel have said, okay, we have a lifeline for you. So if they fit one of these lifelines, talk to us, see what we can do, see what programs we offer to kind of move them off the streets, move them into better care. And then the parents have to be open. They have to be open about, okay, Mark has a problem, all right, and I need you to look into it because he's reacting badly at school. And then the mothers, they need to be, okay, yeah, Mark has a problem. Don't look at this as normal. Mark has a problem. And the mothers need to take that action, that next step to try to get him into care.
I just want to say real quick, that was phenomenal, but also this needs to be supported. So putting back on my public policy hat, you know, you show me your budget, then I can tell you what your priorities are. And I can say in the city of St. Louis, back when I was in service to that municipality, our public safety department had close to $200 million worth of funding, but the Health and Human Services Department had around $30 million, right? And so there's no way you can actually service, you know, these clinics or find the support or the continuum of care that you'll need, because you know, a lot of mental health is not just unhoused folks, but it's also folks that have regular jobs. But the stigma that you talked about, it will then go untreated. So all the elements that you spoke about are critical, but if you don't have public policymakers from, you know, the mayor's office, the legislature, the circuit attorney's office, et cetera, also investing in the resources that will actually target the communities that need this care, not just in the town and countries, but also in the areas that are, for the most part, have been disinvested for generations, then you won't get that impact that is required for us to change it for the next generation. And I think you wanted to say something.
From a law enforcement perspective, I know a lot of us feel that if there were more social workers, you wouldn't need us at all, right? And we don't necessarily fund those programs for mental health the way that we should collectively. What I can say is that when we have more law enforcement that knows the community that they're serving, that's out there with the people, they know the grandparents, they know the parents, they know the children, you have a lot more compassion in the process, and that compassion can pay dividends. So when you see a child acting out, they're having a mental health issue, they're having just excessive stress at that moment, and you can say, okay, so they acted out and they stole a car. What caused this? What can we do with this? Is this the trajectory of their entire life? Or do we think that this is something that we can turn around? Who can we ask about this? Who has knowledge of this child? What do you think they need? When we have all of those components working together, we have better outcomes. And I think it's incumbent on all of us in law enforcement to be out there in the community. And to another large extent, we need people who are willing to work with us and who are willing to trust us, which is difficult. We know the history, and it's hard to take that chance. So I think it's part of being the solution that you want to see, that we have to get out there. And it's not about the punishment, it's about prevention, it's about understanding, and it's about working with people to be what the community needs us to be. People want to feel safe, and that's not necessarily something that we're going to get if we're taking every person who's having a mental health episode and we're throwing them in jail. That's not what we need to see, right? So it's a lot of give and it's a lot of take.
And I'll close by saying, Dr. Buchanan, thank you for fighting the fight that you're fighting. And as someone, absolutely, and as someone in criminal justice, I do feel compelled to at least respond briefly. And to add to JP's point, when you look at your budget, I'll show you what your values are as well. And in our office, we expanded diversion programming, which includes mental health programming, in 3 years to over 1,800 people. That's 1,800 people who would have seen the inside of a jail, low-level nonviolent offenders, but instead received treatment that they needed with a 90% success rate. And also I'll add, we talk about defendants because we know the majority of defendants that come across the Justice Center are in need of mental health care, but also, let's also look at the other side of the justice system with our police officers. That's a very stressful job. You're dealing with people where you never know if you're going to make it home, and then we expect that person not to have mental health issues or need mental health care or therapy or what have you. And so we need to look at this universally, because many of those interactions that we see on the internet and on television are because of some folks that are dealing with some things, and it came out at the wrong time. And so I can't tell you how important this issue is. And with our office, we created all those positions, repurposing other positions. We didn't get extra budget for those positions. It was important for us because we knew we had to address this issue on our own. So thank you so much. And thank you for our panelists, and thank you everyone. So I'm going to pass it back to our host with the voice from Texas.
From Texas, H-Town. Well, thank you. I appreciate you for letting all of our panelists go easy. You know, we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I don't know about you guys, but I've just been collecting gems, taking them, putting them in my bag. And I'm actually I left my script, so let me go grab it. I could go off script, but I'll stay on topic tonight. Again, we appreciate all of our panelists that were up here on the stage. This discussion was sponsored by Cisco. So Cisco, thank you so much. Round of applause. The National Black MBA St. Louis chapter also sponsors a youth program called Leaders of Tomorrow, also known as LOT. This program focuses on nurturing the next generation of business professionals and entrepreneurs by providing them valuable learning opportunities to high school students. They're here today to tell you a little bit more about their program, and I'm going to let them take the stage as they make their way down. So please show these leaders of tomorrow some love.
I would tell everyone to go to the summit each year. It's something really great to have, just to have leadership skills and experience and really take the time to really reiterate those skills here when you go to the summit and really just pour into other kids and tell them you can do whatever you put your mind to.
The National Black MBA LOT program in general has expanded beyond what it was when I was a leader. I love this program so much. I think that the summit itself has expanded. They're bringing in more speakers, more alum like me to come back and share our experiences. It's only getting bigger, better. The students are only getting brighter, more inquisitive year after year. I'm just so proud of them.
This is my first in-person summit. I did it virtually last year, so I really enjoy getting to meet people from new chapters. I feel like networking personally, it really helps you get out of your shell and go talk to people that could possibly further your career and just be your friend in general.
I think it's the networking for sure. A lot of these people are going to be going on to college as well. They all have goals similar to mine, and I feel like if we keep this connection going on after the summit, I think we'll all be very successful in life.
It's just being around people who look like you. The fact that we can come together in a scenario, as well as the various chapters, bringing everyone here in one room, is just spectacular. I think that representation helps. No one is invited to the National Black MBA Leaders of Tomorrow Summit when they're not crazy. And I say that in the best way possible. If you are wanting this opportunity, wanting to be a part of this, embrace your crazy, embrace the fact that you're different, that you're bold, that you're building things and you're creating things and you're investing in yourself and in your community. That's all I would have to say to you at home who wants to be a part of this summit, is fighting to get a part of this summit, and wants to continue down this path of Black excellence.
Hi, Hi, my name is Tyrell Caldwell. I'm a member of LOT, and I currently attend Vashon High School.
Hi, my name is Brandon Wooten. I go to Clayton High School. I'm a junior, and I'm a member of the LOT program.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Franklin. I'm a junior. I'm a junior. I attend Parkway West High School, and I am also a member of the LOT program.
Hi, my name is Ian Banks. I am a member of the LOT program, and I am a sophomore that attends Parkway South High.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Crispin. I am a senior at Whitfield School and a member of the LOT program.
Hi, I'm Noah Temple, a member of the LOT program, and I go to Ladue Horn Watkins High School.
Hi, my name is Anijah Wilson. I'm currently a junior attending Parkway West High School, and I'm also a member of the LOT program.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Terrell Caldwell, and I attend Vashon High School. I am a freshman.
So the LOT program is a comprehensive program for high school students that promotes professional development and leadership skills.
Our organization also focuses on 5 developmental pillars, which include life skills, leadership, career and college prep, as well as financial literacy.
Through mentoring from St. Louis area professionals and entrepreneurial activities that develop financial literacy, the LOT program helps us to develop financial literacy and also prepare us for an ever-changing world.
Every year we go to the National Black MBA Summit where we compete in a business case competition. Through this business case competition, we receive a case where we analyze a problem and offer possible solutions. Through this process, we learn many financial and entrepreneurial skills.
This year, we will be going to, this year, the case competition will be in Dallas, Texas, where we will have a chance to win scholarship money.
Now, if you can all do me a huge favor and pull out your phones. Don't worry, I will wait. If you will scan this QR code and please donate to our program, all donations will go to travel expenses for our case competition in Dallas.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Have a great time.
Pulled out, there we go. I hope everybody pulled out their phones, scanned that QR code so we can send our leaders of tomorrow to Dallas. Did anybody have a good time tonight? Yes. I should have heard yeses all across the room. Yes, yes, yes. I had fun. I was taking notes. I have some gems. I'm going to go donate. And guys, thank you so much again for joining us tonight. I hope everyone had an amazing night. But before I let you all go, we want to welcome to the stage one more person this evening, the National Black MBA St. Louis chapter, the Director of Professional Development, Miss, is it Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Gina Covington James.
Hey, everybody. Did you all have a good time? Really, really, really? How did we do today? Should we do it again? It's going to be much better next year. You should see us. We're already planning. It's going to be bigger and better. But you know what? We want to thank you guys so, so very much for being here. Can we double thank our panelists for being here? We had 2 panel discussions, and they both had so much information. I was sitting here. Someone said, "Are you ready to go up?" And I'm like, what? I was so into it. So much information. I took so many notes. Shalonda, we need to get together, girl. I'm a coding girl, so we need to get together. I got some stuff going on. And where's Giselle? That executive coach? I need that. So we all got some gems. I pulled a lot. Listen, the National Black MBA, we are here. We want you to know that we are here. We are present. We are available. We are here in the St. Louis area looking to bring more events like this to you, more personal development for you, for the Black community, for us, so that we can help each other. Because it's not going to happen if we don't help each other, right? So we can stop blaming everyone else and blame ourselves, look at ourselves and help each other, build each other up. So I want to thank you guys for coming, because I tell my kids all the time that showing up is half the battle, right? And you all showed up today. So, okay, well, as she's coming up, she tells me what to do. As she's coming up, I do want to say thank you to all of our participants today. People from Walmart, Cisco, iHeartMedia, Lindenwood, the FBI, for crying out loud, Walmart. Listen, LaTanya, you are the bomb.com. I just want you to know. St. Louis Cardinals, thank you for being here. Bracy and Associates, she's always been a staple in our community. People's Family Health and Corps, you guys, we thank you for the service that you provide us in the community. Thank you so much. Bungie, are they still here? They came in and showed up, and we appreciate them. And you know, we have corporations here that we don't ever think about, like, do we fit? And we are there. We are there. Worldwide Technology, they were here in the building. Did you guys see them? Amen. We have Black Rock Consulting, the marketing midwife. Is she still here? If you guys did not get a chance to see her, she's wonderful too. And then Boeing and Fox 2 News. We cannot thank them enough, right? So hey, check it out. Did you all see that little guy out there with his coffee and tea? He is an LOT student. We got to pop our collars. He's with LOT. And his coffee company is Junior Coffee Company. Let me tell you something. He is really good. He did a competition this past, summer? And he won $10,000 for his company. Yes. So we like to brag on Noah. Noah, where are you? Did he depart already? Yeah, they're out now. Okay, they're out there talking and popping their collars. I did good. So, and we're proud of our LOT. But thank you guys. Thank you so much. Cisco, did I say Cisco already? Okay, thank you. Okay, they're making me leave.
All righty. If you are a part of the National Black MBA, can you stand up? Outstanding. If you are not a member, please sign up today. Visit our website. This is our membership director, Ms. Tracy Gibbons. She's going to be out in the lobby. We are growing the organization, and we really need good people. So if you're ready to make a difference, we are ready for you. Okay, so give yourselves a round of applause. We just want to take 1 minute and recognize our lovely chair, Miss Gina Covington James. When I tell you the attention to detail, this girl is meticulous. We on the phone at 2 a.m. saying if the circle need to be over just a little bit more. And I'm like, girl, I'm going to bed. When I tell you the level of just wanting to make sure it's outstanding and good and everything is perfect, and she did a phenomenal job along with the rest of the committee, as well as the LOT students and our National Black MBA folks who helped out as well. But Gina, you did an outstanding job. Yes. So we just want to thank you and just give you, you're going to need a glass of wine after this. Oh my goodness. So we have some for you. So if you all could just help us. Now we can all get some rest. We have another event coming up Juneteenth. Please stay tuned to the website. If you have not joined our mailing list, please do so. We have some amazing upcoming events. And for all the folks in the room who are representing companies, we need a venue for our LOT fundraiser. So WashU, Lindenwood, Bungie, whoever would like to donate some space to us, we will definitely take it. Thank you so much.
Let me say one thing. Two things. One, can we bring our beautiful host up? Yes. Mm-hmm.
You want me to hold those flyers for you, Chief?
Oh, yes.
You have to take it. I'm not going to take the wire.
Okay.
I
You can't make that promise. I got you. We just want to say thank you. This young lady, I'm just, listen, Michelle said, ooh, let's call Chelsea. And we were like, okay. And literally said yes.
It's a funny story. I get a lot of emails every single day. That first email, I just so happened to be on my computer. It popped up. I said, oh, this looks fun. Yes, count me in. And I am just so honored to have been here tonight, to be in a room with so many amazing people. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Definitely. And one more thing, I have some friends in here. I just want to say thank you all for being here. Robin Boyce is one of my mentors. I look up to her all the time. Kim Roberson is in the room. I've been knowing her since we were kids, right? And there are other people in the room, I'm sure I can't see. Hey, girl, I see you, girl. But I got to say thank you to somebody that allows me to stay up at 2 o'clock in the morning, that I bother on a regular. And he is a staple in this community. And I have to stand on the side sometimes and be like, But BJ the DJ, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to put this work in. Thank you very, very much. Because I keep him up. And I'm like, what do you think about this? And he's like, So thank you. At this time, what I like to do is to turn this microphone over to Ken Franklin. Can we give it up for him, please? He is our fearless leader. But there's one more person that I do want to acknowledge is Carrie. Is she in the room still?
Yeah, she's over.
Our acting past. There she is. She's a big part of us being here today as well. She's over there. She's in the shadow. She's shadowed out.
She's always in the shadow.
Always in the shadow. I'll let Ken talk a little bit more about her, but we want to say thank you, Carrie. We love you, Carrie. Boo 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 boo. And here's Ken. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Just real quickly, Carrie was the immediate past president who suckered me. Encouraged me to run for this office, and I will never let her forget about it. So I could not have asked for a better partner in crime. We gave her the time off on this one. I know she was anxious to get back in, but she's healing, so we want to let her heal. But I got to tell you, we call her Miss Bylaws behind her back. But no, thank you for all of you. If it was a church program, I'd say let us stand to be dismissed. But we don't dismiss on the first inaugural State of the Black Professionals. So what I want you to do is look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you look good. I'll see you next time. Consider yourselves dismissed.
We are visiting with Ken Franklin, the president of the National MBAA St. Louis chapter. And Ken, after wrapping up the event today, just want to get your thoughts.
I think, first of all, thanks for coming. I saw you making the way and getting to meet people. We appreciate you. You've been a long-standing community leader, but I think most people have a sense of what the problem is, and now we'll try to go and see what those solutions are, and then how we can keep the region accountable to help with those policy decisions.
You have professionals here from so many different areas talking about the black professional, and you just talk about the job you did, just bringing in so many different wonderful professional black voices in the business world like you did today.
I think people are hungry for change. And when they're hungry for change, they will show up to see what's going on in the community. I think that's what you saw tonight here. You saw inspiration, you saw people laughing, you saw people crying, you saw people waving their hands like they were in church because they really touched them in terms of where they are in their development and how we do want to be good community leaders, but we also want to produce for our families and make that American dream come true for everybody.
I saw people taking notes. They were trying to really capture every word of what your panelists were giving them tonight.
Yeah, I think getting the information out to people is key because information is power, and power is the determination of one's life. And I think that's what people want to do now. They want to actually take those things and turn around so they can get it going in their lives and be productive citizens.
This being your first one, I got to ask you the question, how do you top this a year from now? What will you do differently?
Well, I think one thing that we will have is we will have some kind of metrics mechanism, and we'll introduce that based on the feedback that we get back from them. We're also going to start talking to our community partners, our sororities, our fraternities, our community groups, get their input and get their dialogue. I think you'll be seeing a document coming out before next year that we can all at least identify what to say, hey, here's where we identify the issues, here are some solutions for the community so we can get these strategies up and running.
Absolutely. And finally, Ken, you look at the organization, National Black MBAs, you have to feel good too. I'm sure you probably talk to a lot of people who probably want to become part of the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a son of a pastor, so we can have an altar call at any point in time. Come as you are. We'll accept you where you are. I think this has always been a historical premier Black professional organization, and that's what we need to do. Some of the comments we heard was, some of the greats in St. Louis who were doing this 100 years ago, when they didn't have the rights, when they didn't have all the resources. We have the rights, we have the resources, so shame on us if we're not doing this, and that's time to actually take advantage of this inclusive environment that we're living in. So I think the Black MBAs are going to be the forefront to help foster this, facilitate this conversation in our communities to make them grow.
All right, well, that's Ken Franklin, having it here today with the National Black MBA. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you and what you do for getting the information out to the community.